it's Jess from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a requested video. I asked on my Instagram what kind of videos you want to see from me, and every single time I ask that question, so many people say they want to see some Mafia romances. So I have a stack of like 6 or 7 books that have to do with the Mafia. So they are pretty dark, and typically our girl is pretty helpless and kind of sucked into the Mafia world or a relationship she doesn't want. Sometimes she ends up liking it, sometimes she doesn't. A bunch of these, they're like sold off into a relationship. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get to some of the books that have the Mafia in them. The first one I have for you, I feel like I haven't talked at all this year about because it was one of my favorites last year and I talked about it all the time, and that is Raise by Tilly Cole. This is a bind up of the 2, but I've only read the first one, and our main character is the daughter of like a huge Mafia family, and she is dating this guy who is awful. He has a really bad violent temper, and he's just like a very angry, volatile man, but she kind of calms him down, and so she was best friends with him and their other best friend when they were younger, but then the other boy that was part of their trio ended up dying, and so she has been in this relationship ever since, and in comes this stranger who all we know about him is he has been in this fighting jail camp thing for years. He has lost all of his memory about who he was. Someone had brought him to this facility, and he has been born and bred a fighter, and so he's been pumped full of drugs and put in this fighting ring, and he's never lost. And so he finally figures out how to escape, and the only name he knows from his past is our main character's boyfriend, and she's like, I need to kill him, he's why I'm here, and that's all he knows. And so then he ends up showing up where they live, and he is trying to figure out how to kill him and ends up falling for her. Wow. So definitely forbidden romance. There's a lot that has to do with like their family dynamics and what's going on with that. So really like this. Definitely dark. A lot of fighting involved, like ring fighting. So it's really good. So for a few of these, I don't know if it's like officially the Mafia, but the next one I have is Enthralled by Gianna Darling, and our main character, she's living with her family and she has a bunch of siblings, and then her dad is an awful guy and he owes a lot of people money, and so he ends up selling her off to this British guy. I don't know, he's like a lord or something, and he has ties, I believe, to the Mafia or some kind of bad crime organization, and she ends up having to be his slave, basically, his sex slave. And so that is the premise of this book, but she starts to like him, so there's that kind of romance, very taboo, very dark, and definitely a cliffhanger. This is Duet. Book 2 has not come out yet, but he's part of some crime organization and she sold off to him. So it's Mafia? Yeah, kind of? I don't know. The next one I have, I don't know technically if it's the Mafia because it's more like the Mexican drug cartel, which I feel like is just Mexico's equivalent to like the Mafia. And that is Violent Delights by Jessica Hawkins. I've only read book 1. It's a trilogy, and books 1 or 2 are out right now, and I own book 2. I have to read that. And this one, our main character, her family, I believe, is like huge in this like crime organization, and she ends up going away to school, and she is in love with this boy, and she wants to marry him, and his older brother had ended up killing her mother right before she left, and so she's back, and it ends up that he's back in town, and she's like, what is he doing back here? He killed my mom. But there's more than meets the eye, and it's really good, and the ending was kind of crazy, and yeah, that's all I can say without ruining anything, but I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars when I read it, and I'm really excited to read more in this series. So yeah, again, like the daughter of the leader of a organization that is like the Mafia is this one, and if you like that kind of trope, you're gonna love this. The next one I have, I feel like not a lot of people talk about because it came out last year, and that is Want You by Jen Frederick. This one, our main character is basically living on the streets since he's pretty young, and he finds this girl on the streets, and she's a few years younger than him, and he basically ends up raising her. And so then we fast forward to when I think he's like 18 or 19, and he's working for the Mafia, and he is trying to protect her and keep her out of any of that sort of danger. He doesn't want anybody to know who she is, and he ends up falling in love with her, and they kind of fall in love with each other, and she is at that age where she is like, I want you to notice me as a woman, and I believe he'd sent her off to a boarding school and she's back, and they haven't really spent a lot of time together when they were older, and so it's really angsty and really good, and definitely repercussions of him working with the Mafia, and I really enjoy this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars when I read it, and I feel like not a lot of people talk about it, but it's a really good Mafia romance. Then I have one that's kind of obvious that a lot of people have read lately, and that is The Kiss Thief by L.J. Shen. This one is a girl whose dad marries her off to this, I think he's like a senator, but he's part of the Mafia. He's part of some crime organization again, and I don't know if they necessarily like say flat out that it's the Mafia, but she is in love with this other boy who I think is from like another Mafia family, and then she ends up having to marry him, and she was always told that her first kiss was going to be the love of her life, and so she's been saving it for this boy, and then he steals her first kiss, and she has to marry him, and so it is a forced marriage. There are some kind of questionable dark scenes in here, so keep that in mind when you read this. He is a lot older than her. I think she's like 18 and he is a senator, so he's like 30s, and they end up falling for each other. Obviously it's a romance, but she definitely doesn't like him when they first get married, and she is forced into that marriage because she is the daughter of someone in the Mafia. And the last book I have for you is Cole by Tijin. This one is about a woman, I believe, it's been a long time since I read this. I think she moves into a new apartment building and is very curious about this man she keeps on seeing, and he ends up being the owner of the apartment building, and he's the leader of a mafia, and they fall for each other, and she is just this innocent person who doesn't need that life, but she's kind of drawn into it. And Carter Reed also has to do with the Mafia by Tijin. I didn't enjoy that as much, but I think it's because I didn't like the audiobook, and I was listening to it on a really long road trip, so I think the circumstances made me not like Carter Reed, but that also had to do with the Mafia, and there were definitely things happening because of the Mafia in that book as well, and it's a spin-off of this one, and there's a second book to Carter Reed as well. So Cole shows up in there, and he's like a fighter. So yeah, Tijin knows how to write some Mafia romances. I wanted to talk about Monster in His Eyes by J.M. Darrower, but for the life of me, I cannot find that book on my shelves. I don't know where it is. You guys are probably looking and can see it right behind me. I spent a good like 5 minutes trying to find it and just gave up. That one's also Mafia. I didn't love it as much as everybody else has, but that is something that everybody loves as well. And those are some Mafia recommendations for you. Let me know down below which ones I should read. I've heard of Bound by Honor by I think Cora Riley. I really want to read that one. And Captive in the Dark by C.J. Roberts. I think I read that one a long time ago, so I can barely remember what even happened, but I think that's a really popular Mafia romance as well. But let me know your favorites down below. I would love to see what they are. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.